Great thing that it is official. Ink to paper, baby. Ink to paper. Tres Leches is back in full effect. The blonde bomber, okay? The one who was willing to fight and throw the Hadouken. Sophie Cunningham is officially back in the fold. And Kelsey Plum took a $400,000 pay cut. And that is raising many questions about Kelsey Mitchell.
At first glance, the numbers don't add up. A one-year return shouldn't create this kind of noise, but it has. The Indiana Fever are seeing jersey sales surge, and suddenly all eyes are back on the team. With Sophie Cunningham returning, the entire vibe has shifted overnight. So what really changed, and why does it feel bigger than just one move?
But there are players out there that have gotten a ridiculously insane amount of money. Max deals that are total head scratchers. I mean, seriously. But here we are, first year of real money being tossed around, and this is what happened. Breaking. Alexa Philippou broke this. Sophie Cunningham has agreed to a one-year deal to return to the Indiana Fever, sources told ESPN. Cunningham joins guards Kelsey Mitchell and Lexi Hall in coming back to the Fever. Indiana.
No one expected a routine re-signing to turn into a full-blown economic moment. But the second Sophie Cunningham agreed to return, something shifted around the Indiana Fever. It wasn't just excitement, it was a surge, a spike, almost a shopping frenzy that made it feel like a championship had already been won before the season even started.
Guess who's back? Dun, 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 dun. Sophie Cunningham just signed a one-year deal with the Indiana Fever. Good for her. I'm actually really happy she's back. She was just making me nervous yesterday with these goofy videos, sending mixed signals. Like, yo, what the hell's going on with Sophie Cunningham? She's going through something. But they gave her a one-year deal, and I still think that video was about the Fever because she said, I'm going to bet on myself. So they gave her a one-year deal, not a multi-year deal.
At first, it sounds almost unbelievable that one player signing a one-year deal could send merchandise numbers through the roof. But this is where the story takes a turn, because this isn't just about a contract, and it's definitely bigger than basketball. It's about timing, chemistry, and how the WNBA suddenly has its most must-watch storyline, driven by the rising buzz around the Indiana Fever.
In for a doozy, courtesy of Alexa Philippou, ESPN. Breaking. Sophie Cunningham. Let me move this right here. Boom. Sophie Cunningham has agreed to a one-year deal to return to the Indiana Fever, sources told ESPN. Cunningham joins guards Kelsey Mitchell and Lexi Hall in coming back to the Fever. Indiana has also added newcomers Monique Billings and Ty Harris so far this free agency, okay? So Tres Leches is back in full effect, baby. We back, baby. Let's go. Sophie Cunningham is officially back with the squad. This is something we all wanted and we all expected.
People thought they had the Indiana Fever figured out until this move changed everything. Because here's what no one was saying at first. They didn't bring Sophie Cunningham back just for sentiment or shooting. They brought her back because something clicked late last season, something they can't afford to lose, and whatever that spark is, it's selling jerseys like concert tickets.
Beyond her game skills, it looks like she brings chemistry to the team. Welcome back, Shuda. Welcome back. Great news. Tres Leches is back together again. Yeah. Well, I did this last year when I was banging the drum for Sophie to be in the three-point contest and not Lexi. I went back and looked at the stats, and there was about a 25-game period where Sophie was the best three-point shooter on the Indiana Fever. She was the one knocking down shots and had a higher shooting percentage from three-point range. So, never mind the enforcer, never mind the toughness, all this other thing. She can knock down a shot.
It's easy to forget now. But Sophie Cunningham didn't start smoothly with the Indiana Fever. Injuries disrupted her rhythm, and critics quickly called her replaceable, until everything flipped in one explosive stretch where she caught fire from deep and completely changed. the energy around her. Just like that, she went from a role player to a key part of the team's identity. At the center of it all is Caitlin Clark, who has already turned the Fever into a national obsession, pulling in fans who never even followed the WNBA before. But now she's not carrying the spotlight alone. This team has a real cast, and Cunningham has firmly locked in her place, creating a style of basketball that feels fast, unpredictable, and must watch every single night.
Right. So fall back, haters. Anyway, Sophie Cunningham is back, and I'm happy she's back. She got that fire, and I like that she brought that spirit to the team that was missing from years before. And Sophie Cunningham is actually a decent basketball player. I don't know why people hate on her and say, oh, look at her stats. No, she's actually a solid basketball player. She's what you need, what you want from the bench. She brings the energy, she's consistent, and she hit some clutch shots, especially in that Commissioner's Cup. She hit a nice three to extend the lead, and I'm like, this girl is really, really good.
Caitlin Clark is running the show with fearless energy, while Sophie Cunningham is knocking down threes and stretching defenses. Together, it feels less like structure and more like controlled chaos, and that's exactly what fans are buying into. Since her return, the Indiana Fever have seen a sudden surge in hype and sales, proving this move was bigger than expected. And while all eyes are on Cunningham, another storyline is quietly building around Kelsey Mitchell.
Come on, did y'all think she was going to listen? We are the #1 team for the championship right now. Did y'all think any of the players from last year was gonna go anywhere? Where better do you go? You come play for Indiana, you automatically gonna have more fans, more people care about you. You're gonna be seen. You playing next to the greatest thing that ever happened to the WNBA and Caitlin Clark. Like. It's unmatched. Also, this is another thing I told everybody, even when I went live yesterday, don't worry. Sophie will be back. Now, she did sign a 1 year, and I understand why. We ain't got to get into that.
Now, this is where things get a little uncomfortable. While Sophie Cunningham returned on a short-term deal that gives the Indiana Fever flexibility, Kelsey Mitchell made a very different move, and fans are starting to connect dots that may not even belong together. At the same time, across the WNBA, Kelsey Plum made headlines by taking a pay cut to strengthen her team, instantly sparking debate. And just like that, the conversation shifted. It's no longer just about a return. It's about sacrifice, priorities, and what it really takes to build a contender. And here's the twist. Even a little controversy amplifies everything. Fans start picking sides, arguing, investing deeper, and that keeps the Fever at the center of attention. More attention means more visibility, and in today's game, visibility turns directly into sales.
So, Cunningham is back. We have the team that everybody wanted. Basically, the Fever brought back last year's team, minus like Howard, which I wish we had, and I'll take Ari, and added Caitlin to the mix. So I think there's going to be a lot of criticism. I think it might take take a little bit to get that crew dialed in with adding Caitlin to it, but I think we have a great shot. I think we can go far. Everyone stays healthy,
But here's the twist that makes everything more interesting. The Indiana Fever aren't acting like a franchise fully locked into a long-term blueprint just yet. The 1-year deal for Sophie Cunningham feels very intentional. It brings stability, but keeps flexibility. That alone signals a team still building, still testing, still leaving space for something bigger. In a league like the WNBA, where every contract shapes the future, that kind of flexibility matters. The Fever have young talent to develop, roster decisions ahead, and chemistry still forming. And Cunningham's return fits perfectly into that plan. It stabilizes the present without locking the future.
They reached a deal with Sophie Cunningham for a 1-year contract to bring the team together that was on a run last year until everybody got hurt. Now, Sophie claimed fame last year after she tackled down J.C. Sheldon in a game that saw Sheldon and Mabry knock down Caitlin Clark. And Sophie stepped in and said, you know what, I'm not taking it. and she took after J.C. Sheldon.
And most importantly, it keeps the momentum alive, because once momentum is lost, it's incredibly hard to recover. But right now, the Indiana Fever aren't losing anything. They're accelerating. The clearest sign isn't just on the court, but in the sudden rise of jersey sales, even before the season has officially begun. What makes it even more compelling is timing. This surge is happening early, meaning expectations are already building around Sophie Cunningham, Caitlin Clark, and the full roster before anything is proven, turning everything into a preview rather than the main event. And that's the real story. Indiana has stepped into something most teams spend years trying to create: organic attention, driven not by marketing or hype campaigns, but real curiosity, as fans watch closely to see whether this is sustainable or just a perfectly timed spark.
I was hoping that she could possibly go for a 2-year deal. I wonder how much money this 1-year deal is going to be. As I've been seeing, the 1-year deals are a little bit more expensive than the 2-year deals. So what is Sophie being signed for? That's my biggest question, but it is beautiful work to have her back. We know what she was doing last year with the 3-and-D, right? The spark of the team. When the team was stagnant, she come out, talk some trash, get a turnover, run it coast to coast, right? And she turned into one of the splash sisters. That girl was shooting the Wilson off the ball, huh?
When results start matching expectations, curiosity turns into belief. And belief is what transforms casual viewers into deeply invested fans who follow every moment like a storyline. Right now, the Indiana Fever are still in that uncertain but exciting space where everything feels like it's building towards something bigger, and that uncertainty is exactly what keeps the conversation alive. At the same time, Sophie Cunningham is stepping into a high-expectation role where every possession feels like an evaluation, not just of her impact, but of whether she truly fits alongside Caitlin Clark in the long-term vision. Her shooting, movement, and chemistry are no longer just performance. They're signals of whether this partnership is temporary hype or something built to last.
Basically the same crew coming back. I think we can do it, just adding Caitlin. So I'm stoked. Everybody's stoked. I know that they wanted Cunningham, and we got her. So, I mean, there's some super teams being created out there. Atlanta's looking rough. But, yeah.
Fans may not always say it directly, but they can feel that pressure. And that feeling is what drives engagement. People are naturally drawn to situations where something meaningful is at stake. That's why the Indiana Fever storyline keeps growing. At the same time, discussions around Kelsey Mitchell add another layer about priorities, value, and how teams are built. But those conversations stay in the background as long as the Fever keep winning and building momentum. Right now, the situation is both exciting and fragile. Momentum is powerful, but sustaining it is always harder than creating it. And with players like Sophie Cunningham on short-term deals, every game starts to feel like part of a bigger test, about consistency, chemistry, and whether this version of Indiana can turn early hype into something lasting.
Indiana on a 1-year deal. That part of it is sort of interesting just because she had said on her podcast previously, I forget the exact wording, but basically the idea was that she wanted to be able to like settle down somewhere and feel cozy and wanted a big contract in that sense. So, a big contract I'm sure applies monetarily, but also maybe annually as far as the years that are on it. But this is not that. So perhaps Sophie sacrificing that sort of security in order to run it back with the Fever. Of course, it was.
As expectations rise, fans stop being impressed by flashes of brilliance and start expecting them as the standard. That's where the pressure builds for the Indiana Fever. For Caitlin Clark, it means defenses are now built specifically to limit her impact, forcing her to constantly adjust and prove she can still dominate under targeted pressure. For Sophie Cunningham, the challenge is consistency, because short bursts of elite shooting get attention, but long-term value is proven only by repetition under pressure. Together, these challenges turn every game into part of a bigger, unfolding storyline, rather than just a single performance. Fans aren't just watching anymore. They're tracking progress, debating players like Kelsey Mitchell in the background, buying into narratives, and treating each matchup like another chapter in an ongoing series.
Was doing right before she got injured and put out for the season. She was really balling, man. That lady was hooping. All right, regardless of how anybody might feel about her, that girl was hooping. And she was coming through in a major way for the Indiana Fever. So shout out to Sophie Cunningham signing back to the Indiana Fever. I absolutely love it, man. I love it. I think that is a huge addition to the Indiana Fever. She knows the run and gun. She plays just like how Caitlin wants to play. She loves Caitlin. So, yeah, man, I think this works out fantastically. All right, this is it. This is good. Now,
this level of engagement helps explain why jersey sales surged after Sophie Cunningham re-signed with the Indiana Fever. Fans didn't see it as just a roster move. They saw it as confirmation that the story they're invested in is continuing. That sense of continuity made the excitement stronger and pushed more people to buy in. At the same time, the short-term nature of these decisions adds unpredictability, which makes everything feel more intense. It turns every moment into something that has to be watched in real time. And now the question is whether this approach leads to something lasting, or whether momentum shifts depending on results, chemistry, and pressure over time.